Black men can survive in America without a black community. This video is going to break down the idea of black men surviving in this state of America as it's progressing without community. Is that even possible? Well, what is a black community? A black community is a collective coming together of African Americans, people who share our values, our cultural beliefs, and commitment to the betterment and the progress and advancement of our people, not only physically, financially, spiritually, emotionally. Is it limited to only African Americans? Absolutely not. However, I'm mindful in different parts of the world, Africa, South America, Jamaica, different locations may not all share the same value system as the African American community. So before we can lump all people who may share our skin tone into the same group, there has to be a common ground of values, priorities. There has to be a shared goal. A house divided against itself cannot stand. Community is a standing house, unified off of principles, values, ethics, attitudes, all of the above in service of the betterment of our community, of our people, bringing together our skills, our talents, our abilities, opportunities, resources towards the collective whole. It's not just limited to money, it could be your intellect, your crafting abilities, your art. It can be your voice. Black people have a diverse spectrum of talents and gifts that they can bring to the collective group, to the whole, to help better our people. So that's where community, true community, is threaded around this core emphasis on the unification of our people. A lot of people ask, is Black community even possible with a lot of the different challenges and difficulties that we're currently dealing with individual African Americans and Black folks who tend to kind of go off their own way? I don't believe anyone who is not aligned with the betterment or the advancement of our people and their behaviors, their actions, and attitudes define necessarily the group. Each individual, each person is responsible unto themselves, even in the community. That doesn't mean you're not responsible for your actions and your behaviors and your thoughts and your feelings. Sometimes people think, oh, since we're in the community, that means every individual who looks like the face of the community, if they do something wrong, that must mean the community is bad, right? Absolutely not. I mean, look at the NBA, look at the basketball, you know, culture. If one player is doing everything against the coach's orders, that doesn't make the team bad. Okay, the team can still be great. The team can still be good. You just have one player who's just on their own program, but they're not necessarily the totality of the contributions and what that team can bring to the sport. It's the same thing with the Black community. We have to get out of this idea that if one individual is going their own way or if they're doing the wrong thing, then that must mean that we're all doing the wrong thing. That's not true. So America is progressing to a particular economy in a state where it's not popular, or it's not priority is the correct word, for African Americans based off of the perceptions of us in the media, the perceptions of us. Maybe people have their own individual sort of biased experiences that they sort of use as the sort of like measure of our role in the society today. Well, these biases, these stereotypes, these imageries have collectively created a barrier in a lot of the non-Black person's imagination of what role, not all non-Black people, but a lot of the extremists in their communities, of what role or what value do Black people bring politically, economically, to the United States of America as we're moving forward. There are a lot of changes. There is a lot of people getting pushed out due to the rising cost of living and things that are happening even socially, psychologically among the United States of America and Americans in general. You're starting to see this in politics where they're not really leading with what's in the black man or women's interest. So it's only going to get worse over time. And is it possible to survive in this climate of what America is becoming, not being connected as a black unified group? Can you just sort of wing this thing out? There's a lot of research on what's better for black men. Is it better to live in a community of all white folks, right? Are white people going to be white men going to be the Lord and Savior of the black man? Is that kind of where we're going? Is it better for the black man to live in a diverse community amongst his own, his own people? There's some research on this. So a lot of black guys feel like, they're not all, but you have that kind of particular subset of a population in the black diaspora who feel like they're kind of above African Americans. Again, it's not uncommon for people to sort of label an entire group or an entire group of us based off of sort of like the ill will of the few of us, of the minority of us. They kind of translate that to the majority. So they think they're above black people. Okay. I'm not black. Me no black. I'm not African American. You have a lot of these different sentiments, not only in different Hispanic cultures, you even have this in the black culture, right? Where people just are not as connected based off of what they perceive as to be just sort of like a trend or, a broad stroke inherited disposition that, you all have this. Okay. So people think they're better than us. However, in a lot of times these people tend to disconnect and go off into different communities, white dominated communities, to sort of distance themselves from black people. But you guys are not problem free in these locations. There's a lot of research and data on this. So it says here policing in white majority neighborhoods. For example, in gentrification cases, gentrification raises racialized 911 calls. So essentially, gentrification is when you have a particular environment or a neighborhood that for maybe decades has been sort of created or constructed around a certain cost of living, a certain lifestyle that may have been more catered to a minority group, whether it be black people, Hispanic people. Um, and what happens is the more dominant group financially, economically, will come in and they'll start, slowly but surely, purchasing buildings, purchasing companies, businesses, and sort of like infiltrating and coming into these neighborhoods. And maybe they might destroy or tear down certain buildings that may have been for low income families. And a lot of these neighborhoods do have crime and violence and different things like that, crime or poverty a lot of times. And they'll come in, and in some cases, they might put in more jobs or more opportunities, but they may not necessarily be opportunities for the people who are organically in these neighborhoods. They might be opportunities for people who represent sort of like that different class, financially or economically, socially, and racially, to sort of start coming in and creating more affordable opportunities for them than maybe for the people that are there. So this reality of gentrification says raises racialized 911 calls. An analysis of 39 million 911 calls across 14 U.S. cities from 2011 to 2020 found that unfounded suspicious person calls increased as non-black residents moved into black neighborhoods. So a lot of times, as these non-black people are moving in to these dominated, you know, minority black communities, they're coming in and calling the police on a lot of the black people who have been there in these environments, and that increases risk for, you know, threat to your safety, the loss of your life, because we're going to get into law enforcement's role in this. And these are studies that have been done. This is one also done in 2025. Ferguson Department of Justice findings: black residents equals 67% of Ferguson's population, but accounted for 85% of vehicle stops, 90% of citations, and 93% of arrests. Black drivers are 75% more likely to be searched after a stop, despite a lower contraband find rate. This was in 2015. We all know the sort of like the controversy that sort of like surrounded in Ferguson. New York City stop and frisk: 685,724 stops in 2011. 87% targeted Black or Latino residents. 90% were found completely innocent. in NYPD precincts with the lowest Black Latino populations, Black and Latino residents still accounted for 70% of stops in 6 out of 10 precincts. Stop and frisk weapons recovery, only 1.9% of stops yielded a weapon. Over the 4.36 million total stops during Bloomberg's administration, 88% ended in no arrest or summons. So this sort of fear and assumption that a lot of times, you know, when Black people or Black folks go into these communities that are more dominated by other racial groups, that okay, you guys might have a weapon on you, or you guys may not be safe, and things of that nature. Those sort of suspicions, those sort of stereotypes and assumptions are only going to progressively get worse the more expensive America becomes, because the more expensive things become, the more protective I have to be over what's mine. So so it says here 55 million stop database, 16 states, Black male drivers are 2 to 3 times more likely to be searched than comparable white male drivers, controlling for stop purpose, poverty, crime rate, and department factors. This is from 2020. White officers use force 60% more than Black officers on average, and 5 times more in predominantly Black neighborhoods. Across 1.6 million 911 calls in 2 cities with non discretionary dispatch. Okay, so you're starting to see white folks in uniform are starting to increasingly use a lot more violence than their Black counterparts. Police kill Black Americans at 99 per million versus 35 per million for whites, 2.8% are 2.8 times more likely. Mapping police violence cumulative data updated. This was from May 2026. Out of place policing, Black drivers face bias both in their own neighborhoods and in white neighborhoods. Being perceived as white provides consistent stop avoidance advantage regardless of geography. This is from 2021. So, right, no Black community where we just kind of going at it our own way, just based off the research and as things are. Can a Black man handle mentally some of these challenges here? How about for hiring in majority white neighborhoods where a lot of you guys think you're kind of better than Black folks? I'm gonna go live with these white people. I don't want to be around these. Well, let's look at the reality that you're dealing with there. Identical resumes, name only difference. White sounding names got 9.65% callbacks versus 6.45% for Black sounding names, 50% more callbacks for white names. This is from 2004, based off of 5,000 resumes and 1,300 employers. No improvement in 25 years. Meta-analysis of 28 field experiments, over 54,318 applications, found that white applicants get 36% more callbacks than equally qualified Black applicants, and the gap shows no statistically significant change over a quarter century. Okay, this is recent, 2017. Whiter neighborhoods equals more discriminatory employers in New Jersey plus New York City, 15,000 application field experiment. White applicants got 68 to 190% more callbacks than equally qualified Black applicants in wider, less Black neighborhoods. Okay, this is from Agan and Starr, 2024. So you guys move into these neighborhoods and you're still having difficulty finding a job, still dealing with issues with the police, things of that nature. So it says here, 2019, white homicide victims, 78.6% killed by white offenders. Black homicide victims, 88.5% killed by Black offenders. Both numbers reflect the same structural pattern across all groups. So it's so important, in my honest opinion, for Black people to start thinking more, Black men specifically, to start thinking more collectively and more unified. How can we update the programming that we have towards each other and some of the unhealthy belief systems and assumptions and even stereotypes that we might even have towards each other? How can we refine and renew our minds? I feel like as a community of Black men, we're starting to slowly but surely enter a phase of renewal. I'm mindful that, there are a lot of brothers out there. We're not all created equally, but I can't speak for all of them. All I can do is lead brothers who are prioritizing doing the right thing and us banding together. Those who are, you know, eventually destined to kind of come on board and to align will. However, the time we waste on individuals who are just not with it is time wasted focusing on brothers who do want to get their life together, who do want to do the right thing. So how can we update and renew our minds around how we see each other, how we admire each other? I notice it's a lot easier for us to admire each other when, maybe it might be at a position in sports or in music, and maybe you might admire a particular artist or a particular athlete. So I noticed that sometimes that affinity comes a lot easier. But if you're just the everyday black dude, you know, can we translate some of that sort of admiration, respect, and love that we have for superstars for just the everyday black man? I know there's a lot of discussion around Nature Boy and this particular cult that he was driving and founded, and all these different things and all this controversy. And some people are kind of looking at that like, oh man, we can't band together because, they're going to look at us like, we're trying to be like Nature Boy and things of that nature. And black men, if you're going to stay in America and you're opting out of going abroad and traveling and living internationally, you seriously have to ask yourself, if I'm going to stay here and I'm going to choose these particular conditions that I'm up against, can I do this alone? Because if you don't think this way, you're going to eventually stress yourself to death, whether it be resentment, anger, envy, frustration, disappointment. These emotional states translate into health issues as you get into your 40s, as you get in your 50s, as you get in your 60s. There's nothing wrong with being angry, being upset because people are not doing the right thing or you want them. You have to get your mind off of people that are not doing the right thing. Put your mind on people that are doing the right thing. I personally believe that's ish that women do. Women will sit around all day and complain about what brothers ain't doing right. Men ain't doing this. Men ain't doing that. We need black men to do this. Black men ain't this. Black men ain't that. But that's a female trait. You got to put your mind on what are the brothers out here doing that are righteous? Who are the brothers out here who are making moves, who are unified, who are being united? You brothers can't just sit around here like women all day complaining about what men ain't doing. That's not going to solve things. Okay. There's a lot of brothers out here who are making moves, who are doing the work in the community. Shout out to Red Pill, Blue Pill, Jason Black, um, even Star. I know Star doesn't identify as, he's half black. I know he's not all with the weed and all of that type of stuff, but even him talking about these issues and promoting black businesses, there's brothers out there who are trying, is my point. Focus on that. Don't let these females get into your nature where everything is about what brothers ain't doing, brothers ain't this, brothers ain't that. Ideally, you're not looking for another brother to marry. Okay. You need to look for a brother that you can create and connect with and to make a community. Okay. You have to change your orientation to your brother. And I'm mindful a lot of you guys grew up in single parent households. So all your mom did was complain about your dad all day. All your sisters did was complain about their boyfriends all day. So you grow up and all you do is complain about each other all day. You got to break out of that. Go to therapy, go to counseling, heal those mother wounds, heal those father wounds, and man up. That's the only way you're going to survive in America today. A lot of people are leaving this country in mass exodus. It's not by happenstance. Some people just don't have the faith and the commitment and the threshold to continue this game. So they're going out trying to, and sometimes you got to leave to heal, to come back, to even be better for your community. I'm not mad about it. Sometimes you got to take a break and you got to go travel abroad, try something new, get that reset, and then maybe when you're refreshed and you're renewed, you can come back stronger. You can come back better for your community. There's nothing wrong with that. Some people don't need that. But if you're going to come back to an American conversation these next 10, 20 years, you need to be thinking community. That's the only way this is going to work. Look at Donald Trump. He just passed the bill. They're looking at passing the bill in the DOJ from all this money he got awarded. I think it was like in the billions. He's trying to get that money back to who? The white community. And not only the white community, but people who were participants in the riots and the chaos that happened in the Capitol, right? People who potentially could have put people's life in danger. People were murdered, a lot of, just destruction left and right. He's like, let's get these people some money. He's thinking about his community. He's thinking about the collective. That's, I'm not saying we need to emulate that, but I'm just giving you the facts. Look at what you're up against. These white folks, these Hispanic folks, these Asians, the identity extremist ones, they're tribal up. This is going to be a tribal economy in the next, I would say, like 10, 15, 20 years, where if you're not a part of the group, you're not a part of the tribe, just based off of how you look. And it's already swelling up that way right now. They're not gonna give you opportunities. You're not gonna get invited to the conversation. You're just gonna get alienated and isolated until you die off. It's becoming a very black and white sort of um all or nothing, boundaried, tribalistic economy. And a lot of black folks, even in our community, African Americans, they're like, these being with these black people don't benefit me. They're taking the L. They're on the losing team. So I want to go over to the other side. But look what the research is saying: when you go to the other side, you have a higher chance of losing jobs. You have a higher chance of the police being called on you. You have a higher chance of being, essentially alienated from the group. So you're not really benefiting, abandoning your community. There's nothing wrong with loving your community. And I'm not saying, oh, you got to cut off all your white friends. You got to cut off all your Asian friends. We got to get out of this extremist thinking. All I'm saying is you ain't no good for anybody else if your home ain't straight. What they say in the Bible, are you your brother's keeper? Okay. You're not no good for anybody else's, because all these other cultures who you're trying to rush into a line with, they're tight. They're tight. You're the black friend. You're the black home girl, right? You're the black. When they go back to their in group, okay, they're tight. They're tight. So you gotta take care of your home first. That's why I got into counseling, to help the black community. That's the only reason why I went into this field. I was like, man, you know what? We need more therapists. We need more doctors. We need more people who look like us that can speak to the issues that we're dealing with. I could have been out here and been anything. I was like, you know what? I want to get into a field where I can be some sort of like difference, for my brothers. But I'm only one person. I'm dealing with some cases of just racial trauma that are so hard. I'm just like, man, I thought I was, struggling. I hear other cases from brothers, and I'm just like, man, I even had cases from other brothers, and even me being black, especially when I work with older black people or older black men who had serious racial trauma. It's like, man, those are some of the most difficult cases because sometimes they look at you like you're too young to really understand the brevity of what I'm dealing with. So we need all age groups. We need as many of us together to fight against this beast that we're up against. I don't think it's going to work morally, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally to survive in America without a black community. But it first starts with us renewing our minds, updating our attitudes, our assumptions, our beliefs about each other, and not allowing the individuals who are opting out and who are disconnected from the goal of strengthening and advancing our people. We can't keep letting them define us. We can't keep letting them define us. And something wrong if you feel like you need to leave the country, you need to go somewhere else to kind of refresh, to kind of renew your spirit and to heal from the trauma and just get a break from the game that's going on in this country. There's nothing wrong with that either. However, I think if a person, a black man, African American man, because I'm African American, I can't speak for all you other brothers from all these different cultures and all this other stuff that's going on. If you're going to stay here, it's only going to be possible to do it in a righteous way where you leave with some integrity as a community, in my honest opinion, because we are becoming more tribal minded and divided by the day. And if you think you're going to come out here on some neo ish and you're just going to do it solo, the research and statistics are showing you that you not only increase your rate of stress, but that stress also increases your rate of mortality. as well. Black community is life. Coming together as a community is life. Some people are like, oh, we don't got no community. We all just individuals. Well, it starts with the individual. It starts with the individual. It starts with us. It starts with me. Okay. I can't speak for everybody else. And then after we, sort of healed and renewed our mind, refreshed our spirit, looked at each other with a more newer, fresher, healthier pair of eyes, then we can come together as a community. Communities are stronger when the individual is stronger. When the individual is healthy, communities are healthier and more secure when the individual is secure. So it's not entirely bad that we're individuals. You have to come A community is founded by individuals. So it's not a totally bad thing that we're individuals. It's about, if you stay an individual, that hurts the community. The community is built off of individuals. Okay. So there's nothing wrong with that. Some people in the comments like, oh, we don't have any community. We're individuals. Well, that's a good thing. Heal yourself as an individual. Challenge yourself as an individual. Develop some love for your brother as an individual. Develop some love for yourself as an individual. Invest in yourself as an individual. And then over time, when you see that reward accumulate and how good it feels to love yourself and to develop yourself, focus on your health, then you'll start caring about that in other individuals. Then you'll start being like, man, you know what? I see the value of investing in this younger black man or this other black man because I've seen the value of investing in myself. It starts with us. If you're not seeing that in yourself as an individual, if you're not investing in yourself as an individual, if you're not loving yourself as an individual, if you're not doing the mental health therapy work in yourself as an individual and seeing the value of changing your thoughts, changing your beliefs, changing your assumption, old rigid rules, you're not going to see it in other individuals. It starts with us. So us being individuals right now is not entirely a bad thing. I've been doing therapy for over 10 years. Like I said earlier, my whole mission of becoming a therapist was to try to work with our black community. And I've seen so much racial trauma to where it hurts my heart. And I have some cases where there's not a tool book I can give them because a lot of these psychology books are based on the white experience. I can't give them I can't say, oh, this is what Freud says about what you should do, being black and being looked at as a nigga. So, but sometimes the best medicine I can give them is just showing up as a brother who can connect, who can relate, and who understands. As a therapist, we have a lot more insight into the beauty of community because we do the work. I've sat with some very challenging cases where sometimes I don't even know what to say. And also, on therapy and receiving support, therapy is starting to develop and blossom into a very spiritualized conversation. There are therapists who don't have any religious backgrounds. If you know you're living a lifestyle that is not biblical, it's probably better for you to get a therapist who doesn't have that belief system. The reason why I say that is because there's only so much a textbook can cover. And also, a lot of therapists who don't have those personal life experiences, maybe they don't have multiple baby mamas or multiple wives or different things like that. And you can have different baby mamas. I know that shit happens. But if you're sleeping with three women and you got four women and five women, you might not want to go to a therapist who is a pastor or a minister. Go to someone who may relate to your lifestyle. And if you do go to that minister or that pastor, don't be surprised if they're not celebrating your lifestyle. Therapists are human beings. They're not perfect. This is just my honest piece of advice because a lot of you guys are going to start exploring therapy. A lot of you guys are going to start looking into counseling. You need to find someone who matches what you're trying to work on in your lifestyle because a lot of times lifestyle issues do bleed into therapy. So, just my own personal wisdom. But you need a black community to win in America is my synopsis of this video. And it starts with us as individuals. And you try to go any other way to survive in this situation, you're just going to increase resentment. You're going to increase bitterness. You're going to create anger and increase frustration. And that translates as you get into your 40s and 50s as health issues, as co occurring health and mental health disorders over time, which increases your mortality. We need Black community to survive in this country for our lives.